My name is Jeff Morgan. I am from Dallas, Texas. I'm reporting on a case that I witnessed on December the 4th, 2019 in Collin County, Texas. This was under Judge Piper McGraw in the 469th Judicial District Court of the state of Texas. Now, I was tipped off on this story by a person who lived nearby, and he told me to contact the people. And I'm working with an organization called United Parents for Children News. So I am an investigative reporter for them. I do have a full-time job, but I do this in my part-time capacity. I went up to the hearing to watch the proceedings to see what exactly took place. I had been given a briefing. I'm not going to go into all the details, but I really was shocked once again. Every time you go into a family court setting, you end up leaving shocked. What happens, the injustices that take place, that nobody protests, that the judiciary, that the attorneys, that our state legislators think are okay. You end up shocked, completely shocked and appalled over what takes place every day, every single day, in multiple courts in the state of Texas. So after the hearing was done, I asked the people that were involved if I could go to their house and talk with them a little bit more in depth and in person regarding what they've been through throughout the last 10 years. And what I decided to do, instead of talking with the person who's involved in the case, I decided to talk with his wife. His wife is Carolina Garza, a very lovely young lady from Colombia, and she was talking about things that she could not believe that she had witnessed in the state of Texas. She thought that things were bad in Colombia. She thought the courts were corrupt in Colombia. But coming to the United States, the courts in Colombia appear to be very innocent and full of integrity compared to our family courts in the state of Texas. And Carolina talked about what exactly she saw and what her husband has suffered from the abuse that these family court judges and family court attorneys inflict upon people who are respondents, often to false allegations and false charges. So in this upcoming video, you'll see 4 different segments which I've put together under one video. The first segment is going to be called 10 Years in Family Court, in which Carolina will talk about how her husband has spent 10 years in family court. Now, family court sounds pretty innocuous. It sounds like a nice place. We're going to get together and we're going to talk about family issues. Family court in the state of Texas, their issues can drag on for years and years and years. It is not a very innocuous court. It is a court that can rob people of their financial assets. And in this instance, they have spent over $500,000 responding to malicious and vindictive accusations which everyone knows are false. The second part will be on the assertion that there is no justice in family courts. And in this segment, Carolina does talk about family courts and how there is no justice, especially for her husband. She also talks about, again, how family courts compared to Colombia, the courts in Colombia. And by comparison, the family courts in the United States of America are far worse, far more corrupt, far more vindictive, far more malicious than anything she has ever witnessed in the country of Colombia. The third segment will deal about the family destruction industry and how that needs to be regulated. You see, what happens in the state of Texas is that we have divorce attorneys, and these are only part of the family destruction industry. But they profit wildly by statutes which our legislature has passed, some of which are completely unconstitutional. Nevertheless, these are the statutes by which our courts are regulated. And the family court attorneys, the divorce attorneys, not all, but many of them, know how to pick the pockets of their clients and transfer their assets to their own personal accounts. They know how to rob college savings accounts. They know how to put people into bankruptcy. And unfortunately, the state of Texas does very little about this. The family destruction industry does need to be regulated. And we need to have the governor, Greg Abbott, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, every legislator involved in regulating the corrupt, the abusive practices of the family destruction industry. Finally, in the fourth segment, we will be talking about how the legal system is supporting hatred, money, and lies. If you want to hear truth, do not go to a court. Attorneys will tell you stories that will benefit their clients. They are not interested in truth, they are interested in winning. And in every instance in which the attorneys are interested in winning, children are being victimized. That is the reality. The U.S. court system today supports hatred. In this instance, this lady's husband has suffered multiple false accusations. And the evil of the system is this: the lady, his ex-wife, is not even lodging the false accusations. She's telling her stories to sympathetic counselors, to sympathetic therapists, to sympathetic people who will therefore report her husband to Children's Protective Services. Factual? No. Abusive? Yes. Does he have to defend himself at a great cost? Yes, he does. So the family court industry and the law system today supports hatred. It supports money, and it supports lies. And the reason we say it supports lies is because in the family courts in the state of Texas, perjury is never prosecuted. Never. Perjury should be looked at as one of the major crimes in the state of Texas. And yet perjury is looked upon as being kind of an incidental, something that we don't really talk about too much, something that certainly is not punished. So this creates a system in which a person who commits perjury can be rewarded, possibly with child support, possibly with custody of the children, possibly with the destruction of the life of his or her ex-spouse. So we're going to be talking about these issues. Again, this lady, Carolina Garza, has been experiencing this not personally, well, in a sense she has been experiencing personally, but also vicariously, because she is watching her husband, a very good man, a very honorable man, a man who loves his children, being harassed and abused, not only by his ex-wife, but by the divorce attorneys and by the family court system itself. I invite you to listen and to watch as you hear my interview with Carolina Garza. Thank you. I'm here with Carolina Garza.
Yes.
So nice to meet you today.
Nice to meet you too.
Unfortunately, it was not under the best of circumstances.
Not really, but we made it better circumstances.
Yeah. So, and I met you today at the Collin County Courthouse.
Yes.
How many times have you been to that courthouse over the last number of years?
I could say that this at least has been like my 9th or 10th time.
But this is not a situation that you're going to court. You're just going to be a support for your husband. Is that correct?
Exactly, yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on from your perspective? I mean, you're his wife.
Yes.
You have children together. You have stepchildren as well. Just give me your perspective on everything that takes place in the courts.
Well, so I'm, like you said, I'm there just to be a support to Robert through his case. His case has been going on for 10 years. But I've been part of his life for 5, almost 6 years now.
Wow.
And it's very, very an unfortunate case. You know, it's very sad, and it's taken a lot of me to understand and try to be there for him, because I did not know that these things were going on in the system, in the world, and just could never comprehend. It's like a movie. Right. You know?
So can you give a little bit more details for those who don't know exactly what you're talking about?
About the case?
Yes, about the case. Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah. So my husband has 2 girls.
Okay.
And he was married before to somebody.
Okay.
Should I say names or no names?
Probably without name, just another person, yeah.
Yeah, he was married to another person, and unfortunately, this person hates my husband and has not been able to move on after 10 years. And she has a lot of money. And she is a woman that has a lot of influence through her business. So she has used all this power and money to just make my husband's life and my life impossible.
So you said that you've only been around for about 5 to 6 years of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And that to you it was a bit of a surprise.
It was extreme surprise.
So you come from another country.
Yes.
How would it be handled? You come from Colombia, is that
Yes.
correct? How would something like this be handled down in Colombia?
I don't ever think that something like this would even sustain there. I've never heard of anything like that. Just don't think people would last this long fighting. You know, I really honestly think that you have to be extremely miserable to fight for 10 years and spend so much money and energy and put your kids through this for so long.
Yeah. So for the background, and tell me if I have everything correctly, this was a divorce situation. There are the 2 children involved. At one time, as I understood, at least for a very brief amount of time, everybody was okay. Things were going. It may have only been 2 months, but at least, you know, your husband, and this was probably prior to you meeting him, was seeing his girls and everything was fine. And then after the 61st day, everything changed. What happened at the 61st day that made things change?
So to my understanding, they had, you know, a pretty nice, you know, agreement that they were just going to part ways. You know, they weren't understanding each other. And after the 61st day of the divorce, that Robert could not go after her assets, she started filing all kinds of things against him.
Right. And as I had talked with Robert, her assets were nothing that he was even interested in.
No.
But what she started to do then, as I understand, was to use the system to keep him away from the girls. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
And looking at the calendar that I saw, it looked like immediately from day 61 until about day 120 or 180 or something like that, he was almost excluded from the children's lives.
Yes, completely.
And that's been an ongoing battle as far as I understand. Is that correct?
Yes. Every summer, every holiday, every opportunity that she gets, she will take.
So I want to ask you a couple of questions first. You're his wife right now.
Yes.
What type of a strain has this put upon your relationship? Obviously, I would think that probably when you married Robert, you weren't quite expecting this level of drama. If you could call it drama, drama is probably a nice word. But what type of a strain has it put on your relationship?
It's put a very big strain on my marriage because although he's my husband and I understand what he's going through, it's not ultimately for him to make a choice on it. He can't, you know, choose because he has to respond to it because they're his kids and he loves them. It's extremely hard because I have also been put in the middle of it. You know, there's all this hatred against me because I love these kids unconditionally, because they are his kids and because I've grown a bond with them, and I take care of them. So now I'm hated for it. I'm bullied for it, and it takes a lot of time for me and him because he's constantly trying to defend his case and trying to defend his kids.
Yeah, it does create a lot of difficulty. But, you know, from what I hear, you had a very good relationship with his children.
I did have a very good relationship with, I still have a very good relationship with his younger daughter too. His older daughter, up until 6 months ago, we had an extremely close relationship too. And now that she's growing and she's 13, it's been a little bit of a struggle.
So some people have talked about this whole issue that you're talking about in a couple of different ways. They've used terms like parental alienation, toxic parenting, a number of things like that. But I want to focus on the children for a moment here. The older of the 2 children, do you think that she's acting as her true self, or do you think somehow she's being manipulated or even victimized?
Completely. I think that she's completely learned her behavior from her mother. I think she wants to also support her mother. I think she also feels that she gets a lot of attention from her mom because she's siding with her. And of course, there's the money and the power too. That's when you start growing and you see what comes along with you playing along with the person that's providing those things. You know, you become very manipulative of situations. And of course, if, you know, 10 years is going to be too much time for a kid to go under the stress.
Right. I mean, basically, if she's 13 right now in 10 years, that's by far the majority of her life.
Exactly.
Do you think, I mean, you've seen this, and again, you've had a good relationship with her, but there's got to be that pull, that stress, that strain.
She has said many times that she just wants to be away from both parents because she's so stressed that she feels that she's put in the middle of both of them and that she has to pick a side. So what I always tell her is that she just needs to be a child and worry about children stuff and not about adult stuff. And we pray about it, and I just try to keep her preoccupied on love and just other things. But the older she gets, the more she understands and the more that she gets involved. Right.
And I imagine that as she's getting older too, it's got to be having impacts or effects on her, perhaps in her social life, perhaps in school. Have you seen anything along those lines as well?
Oh, of course. She is in all kinds of trouble at school and with other kids, and her relationships are really hard for her too, because she is so stressed, sad, and her frustration. This is mostly what I see in both girls. It's so much frustration. Because they can't do anything to fix it. This has been my most strong feeling, and my daughter's most feeling is frustration, because there's nothing we can do to help them.
As much as your heart goes out to them, there's nothing that you can do. So when you look at, in particular, looking at the girls here, there's several different hearts at play. There's their heart toward their father. There's their mother's heart towards the father, which is not in the best of condition, or at least doesn't express the nicest of sentiments. But then you have the hearts of the parents toward the children. I'm sure that your husband, as the father, just aches to have that relationship. I think for you, on the other hand, you would also ache, but you see things from a different perspective as well. Is that correct?
Yes, totally. You know, he just hurts, and he just wants to give and give and give and fix and fight. And on my perspective, I'm extremely worried on so many aspects.
What I noticed in going through some of the paperwork that I got to see, the accusations against your husband are not nice.
No.
And they're not true.
They're not true. And they're now also that she's tried to make accusations against me also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so here you are having to defend yourself. Has this cost you a lot of money to defend yourself?
Extreme. My husband has spent so much money, it's not even real. I mean, we could have bought 3-4 houses with the money that he spent.
Wow.
Yes, it's insane and it's sad.
So are you saying that at the same time that there's something about the system that is almost abusive?
It's completely abusive. There is, you know, and I'm being very vocal on it. With social media, I'm not staying quiet anymore, because I just feel like there's no hope, there's no justice for those kids, for us, for him. There is no justice. It's the person that has the most money and that can file and has a good lawyer is the person that is going to get what they want.
So what I also saw in the stuff that I read, it looked like certain accusations were made again and again and again. They were investigated, they were found to be false. Then they were refiled, they were investigated, found to be false again. They were refiled, I believe it was over 30 times.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Just a month ago, that there was accusations. CPS went to the hearing, said that that they were not going to open the file, that the file was closed completely, that there was no doubts or questions, and here we are again.
Do you think that the mother of the girls realizes how much damage she is doing to the girls? I mean, because what she's doing is she's expressing hatred toward you two, but she's victimizing the children. Do you think she has any knowledge of that?
I want to, the spiritual good side of me wants to say that she does. I want to be hopeful, because that's who I am as a person. You know, and I want to stay hopeful that she just doesn't know what she's doing, and
Right.
that she's just so mentally ill that she hasn't gotten the help that she needs.
Right.
But there's also the other part of me that I've seen so much that I just like, maybe she just likes it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's the whole idea that Jesus on the cross saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Exactly.
But there's, I think a lot of people can even embrace that. But why do I have to keep paying for it?
Exactly.
If she's making these false accusations and you have to defend yourself, and it takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. And at the same time, what really shocked me today, because I went up there to watch the hearing itself to see what was going to happen, and there was one person, a police officer, who was not there. So the judge made this a continuance.
Exactly.
And the judge, without any evidence, without any proof, in fact, all the evidence would say that there would be no reason whatsoever that there should be a temporary restraining order put upon your husband. Now that temporary restraining order has been extended for another 6 weeks, so he cannot see his children at Christmas.
Yes. And we just lost Thanksgiving with them too.
We just lost Thanksgiving as well.
And not only that, but there was over 10 specialists there, not just any witnesses like
Right.
us.
Yeah.
That my husband had to pay to be there, 2 of his lawyers to be there. So all the fees that he invested in didn't matter. And
Right.
when the judge was asked by the lawyer about what about his client's fees and all the money that he had spent for the day to prepare, she didn't care.
She didn't care. That's what I saw too. And I was sitting there as somebody, this is the first time that I've met you and your husband today. And my blood was boiling.
It was too. But I've seen this so many times. And for his ex, she has the money. For her, this is a play day. But my husband is a very hard-working man. That
Yes.
He came from a very humble family.
Right.
And my husband's worked tooth and nail to get where he's at. And we are both very hardworking people. We are not rich. We just love his kids, and he has been fighting for those girls for 10 years.
It's really a shame. As far as the attorneys, I met the attorneys for your husband, and I love them.
Yes, they're not only attorneys; they are good people.
They are good
They are
people.
friends.
Yes.
They've become friends. They care.
Yeah.
They are frustrated with
Yeah.
it all too.
Yeah, but I also saw the attorneys from the other side, and they come from a law firm. I'll mention the law firm,
Yeah.
Coons Fuller. I saw what Coons Fuller did at the Save James trial. I saw what I thought was deceitfulness. I looked at their website. They always say that there's 2 sides to every story. In other words, who's going to pay us the most money, and we'll take your side of the story.
Exactly.
I did not see them to be people of integrity. I'm not saying that whether your opinions are that way or not, but that was my opinion. And in the courtroom, you hear a lot of times the phrase, the best interest of the children. And I heard that today. I don't know what was when I was listening to your husband's case. Maybe it was somebody else, but they talked about what is in the best interest of the children.
It was the judge.
It was the judge who said that. But I don't even know if the judge, I think it's just a phrase that she uses. Because none of this stuff is in the best interest of the children.
No, none of it. If it was the best interest of the children, they would never let a case go 10 years.
Right,
And let these kids suffer for 10 years.
Now, this judge, how long has she been the judge?
She's been our judge, I think, for the last 2 years.
Okay, was there anybody, so you say 2 years, but this has been going on for 10 years. So how many judges have there been?
I'm not for sure, but I think this is the second or third judge.
Okay.
Because
since you've known him, since you've been married.
Because the problem is that his ex, would continue to change the courts when she wouldn't get what she wanted. She changed to another county.
Oh, and the other thing that I heard about this, which really surprised me a bit, is that she is also shopping for psychologists or therapists to actually do her dirty work.
Oh yeah.
So she's not filing the charges with CPS against your husband, but she is going to a psychologist or a therapist or a counselor of some sort, telling her story again and again and again. And now the person who is listening to her thinks, I have a duty to report this person.
Exactly.
It's complete manipulation.
Yep, and she plays the victim. And
I also heard that one of these therapists or psychologists actually falsified records against your husband. Said that he did certain things, and I saw the receipts. He wasn't even in town at the time.
Yep.
And it's very unethical what's going on here. So looking at these attorneys, looking at the therapists, and the people that they will hire to tell their own story. As an outsider, coming from outside the country, what do you think about the American judicial system and the courts?
I actually thought that it was only crooked in my country.
And now you're saying your country looks pretty good compared to ours.
It looks pretty good, but yes, I would say, if I ever heard of anything, nothing like this, but stuff happened in my country, we'd always be like, oh, this just happens here. But now, the things that I have seen happen in my husband's file or his story are from a movie. Like one of those really good movies. Like he could make a movie.
But you look at these courts, and these courts are horrid.
Horrible.
And I mean, they're just really bad. People who don't know how bad these courts are probably think, well, if you're in the courts, you probably deserve it. There's probably something wrong. The courts would never get it wrong. There's something wrong with you. Have you heard anything? Have you ever felt that way, that people think that way about you or about the whole thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel like, there's a reason we're there and there's a reason this is happening. But there is not a reason. It's almost like we have to be there. Because if we don't, then he loses his kids. And that is an important point to make, that you have to respond or you lose your kids. And I think that there is something absolutely wrong with the state of Texas when, on the one hand, the Attorney General issued an opinion in February of this year, KP-0241, and he talks about parental rights and how the state must make a compelling argument to do anything to terminate those rights or along those lines. You have a very good father for all intents and purposes because of the manipulation of his ex-wife, using the courts, using therapists, using attorneys like those that come from the firm of Coons Fuller. And again, my opinion of them is very, very low. But it just seems that there is something so wrong that we would allow this to take place for all intents and purposes, even though we talk about parental rights, we talk about the importance of the parent-child relationship, children having both parents in their home, and yet our court system, and especially with what I saw today, when that judge granted that continuance and said, we're going to keep the temporary restraining order on for 6 more weeks, I thought that was criminal. It's totally. After everything she knows what's happened to Robert and what Robert's been through and all the accusations he's had to fight unfairly. And to just do this to him is just completely wrong. To me, I look at the business of divorce, the business of child custody. I call it the family destruction industry. And I say that the attorneys are involved. Many of the attorneys, not all, because there are some good ones. The judges are involved. Many of the judges, not all. It's become a business. It has become a business. So my thought is this. We regulate big tobacco. Because big tobacco, if we did not regulate big tobacco, they would have ads on televisions proclaiming the health benefits of cigarettes. We regulate big pharmacy. We regulate big alcohol. Why don't we regulate big courts? Why don't we regulate big divorce firms? Why don't we regulate the entire family law so that we have, maybe we would have a code of ethics. And that if these people violate the code of ethics, they would either be sanctioned, have their license taken away, maybe they would have to make financial recompense to some of the people. There'd be some type of punishment involved. What are your thoughts about that? I think you're absolutely right. I think that something needs to be done. I think this is getting out of hand. It's not only my husband, there's thousands of cases going, this way. And not only men and women too. It's the other way around. So something needs to be done, and we need some justice for the laws. Why did God create laws? For a reason. So if we don't have these laws, what is it going to be of us?
Right.
And if we can't count our legal system, then what are we going to count on?
And that is a very important point, because there's many people that think, well, we should be able to trust our legal system. And I've said, I don't trust it at all.
No.
At one point in time, I had a lot of faith in it. And then I went through part of it, and I lost a lot of faith in it. And then I went through a second time, and I said, there is nothing you can trust about it.
No.
And that is a shame, because the legal system should be the last non-violent means of resort that we have to get justice.
Exactly.
And if that system that should be set up to protect the innocent is used to oppress the innocent, to victimize the innocent, to plunder the innocent, to exploit the innocent, to destroy our children and our grandchildren, what does that leave us with?
Exactly. Nothing. There's
leaves us
nothing.
with nothing
This
whatsoever.
is why people are taking, how do you say it? They're taking the things in their own manner.
Right.
And that's why people are killing each other.
Right.
You hear of husbands killing wives.
Right.
Children killing. I mean, this is why people are taking things in their own manner, because
Right.
they see no justice.
Right.
So
right.
if that's where the root is starting.
Right. And something else that has been taking place, and I was reading about this much more because of the veteran issue. The commonly cited figure is 22 veterans kill themselves each day.
Wow.
And secondclasscitizen.org, they've talked about this, and about 60% or so, I believe, maybe it's a little bit more than that, actually when they take their lives, it has something to do related to family court, to divorce, to something along those lines. But they also talked about another group of victims that people never talk about. The children of these fights committing suicide. The children of these fights dropping out of school. Children of these fights getting pregnant, going on drugs, getting into criminal activity. And we never talk about that a lot. So these attorneys that think that, we're fighting for you, they're destroying an entire generation of people coming up.
I've seen it too. I'm part of a lot of different groups, like a stepmomming group and grown parents group. And suicide is one thing that is killing our youth and our children.
Yeah.
And this kind of cases and this kind of stuff puts so much pressure on these kids that are already dealing with society, with hormones, with growing, with other people accepting, with bullying, with so many other things. And then the two people that are supposed to be guarding, supporting, and loving them are tearing each other down in front of their eyes.
Right. There was one of the attorneys talked to me today afterwards. I don't know if you were there or not, but he was talking about a judge that was in front, that the mother and the father were in front of, and they were arguing about something, and somebody came and whispered something to the judge's ear, and the judge had to say, I'm sorry to inform you of this, but your son just killed himself. They're fighting in court, and he has to convey to them, your son just committed suicide.
Wow.
And it's just a shame what's taking place.
This has been one of the things that I always feel here, because I've seen these girls cry and suffer so much over this fight that I just hope and pray that God just has them in his hands and that they're okay. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about the relationship, the kids and everything. These charges against your husband could actually get him imprisoned.
Yeah, my husband could go to prison, and my husband could lose a lot of things and been classified in a way that he's not.
Right. Because
of these charges.
Right.
This is not a game. This is not me just telling a story about a victim or two victims, because I am not a victim. I will never classify myself as a victim. I'm a survivor.
Right.
And I will never be victimized by anybody or use my story to create any kind of feeling, emotion in other people. I'm sharing this story because I want other people to know what's going on, and I want them to feel supported by me. But this is the story of a man that loves everybody, supports everybody.
Yeah.
And he is a good person, and anybody could say that about him. And he is about to lose everything because of hate. This is something that I will never, ever be able to share. And I am also divorced. My ex we share a daughter, and she has a stepmom. And so there's no way that I can say, oh, well, I just don't understand her, because I have the same situation. We had an ugly divorce, but we worked it through for our daughter. We are friends now. We work every day in our relationship. I love my daughter's stepmother. Why? Because she loves my daughter. And that's the only thing that I should care. It's the only thing that matters. And I love her family, and I love her dad, because I never had a father. I grew up with no father, and I don't want that for my daughter. I want her to have two dads that love her. I want her to have every person she can that can love her.
And I saw today when I was here, you had a video that the stepmother sent you about your daughter's baby sister.
Yeah, her baby sister is my baby. She is my baby. I love her to death, like she was part of me, because you don't choose who you love. You just love. That's it. And love is the most powerful thing there is. But what's going on here is they are supporting hate. The legal system is supporting hate.
Yes.
That's all it is. Because they're not there for justice. They're supporting hate and money. That's it.
So, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. When I've been to the courtrooms and I've seen what's taken place, the courtroom is the last place in which you will find truth. You will find attorneys giving a story to try to get the jury on their side. And if there's some type of truth that will undermine their story or make their story look less credible, they will object to it. And they will try to frame things in their way. Truth is not what they're looking for in the court. They're looking for a winner and a loser. There was a judge that I went in front of that I questioned him publicly. And he says, well, I know that in my courts, in such and such a case, half are going to win and half are going to lose. I said, well, why? You tell me why that is the case. And why should there not be both winners? Why are you saying that there's a winner and a loser? Because when you say that, you're also saying every child loses.
Exactly.
Every child is victimized. Now, I want to ask one question before we finish up here. You have a new project coming up, the Shirt Project. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that it's good for people to know that even in the midst of this hate, and I know that you're a person of faith, so you're drawing your strength, your grace, your love from a higher power, from God himself, but you also want to see this thing fixed so that it's not just our husbands or our wives or our brothers or our sisters, our sons or our daughters, but everybody can get through this successfully. So tell me what your project is.
So we have decided to create some shirts that are going to say each role of our little family, so my husband and my ex-husband and his girlfriend, wife, they live together, and their two babies, and my daughter. We are going to do a very significant, powerful campaign to share how it's supposed to be. It's just supposed to be love and support towards your kids. So each one is going to be wearing a shirt, and we are going to be standing together, united in love.
Wow. Will this be on a Facebook group? Will it be on a...
We are going to be sharing and hashtagging it and try to share it as much as we can so we can get this out there so people can know that this is okay. It's not weird. A lot of people, they tell me, they're like, that's weird. No, it's not weird. Why is it weird? Because you have been brought up with a standard that you just need to block people out of your life after they're done. No, you choose who you want in your life, and we choose to support everybody that loves our kids.
So the movie that's coming, the documentary that's coming out, Erasing Family, what you're saying is that in the situation that you want nobody erased.
No.
But what typically happens in divorce, somebody wants the other parent erased.
Exactly.
Or somebody else erased.
And that's the most hurtful thing for a kid.
Yeah.
Because just because you don't love that person, you can't forget that your kid, your son, your daughter does love that person.
Yeah.
So that should be enough for you to forgive and love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for everything that you've shared. I know it's been a very difficult time. I know anybody who goes through this, it is a very difficult time. I know that as somebody who's been through it myself, to have the support of a loving wife is immense. It's huge. And the same thing for the women that are going through it, to have the support of a loving husband is huge. Your marriage, your support could just go in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But to stay together, to be strong, I know it does a lot for the other person. And I know that sometimes the person who's doing that is also suffering at the same time.
Yes.
It's not even noticed. But I just want to say that thank you so much for letting me talk with you, for being here, for inviting me over. I will be back up again to watch what happens. I hope that this thing gets resolved, and I hope at the same time that some of these injustices that we've talked about, that you've mentioned, get rectified. It shocks me to think that you would say, I thought only in Colombia the courts were bad, but in America they're even worse.
They're even worse. Yes, it's true. And I thank you for sharing your story with me. It's so important that we share with each other these stories, that we know that we're not alone.
Right.
We all need to speak up. We have stayed quiet for 6 years because we just don't even know if people care, if it's right to share. I am not going to stay quiet anymore. This is injustice, and it's killing people, it's killing marriages, and ultimately, spiritually, that's what the devil wants. He wants to kill the families. He wants to kill marriage. And you know what? I'm not going to support it anymore.
That's right. That's great. And one final thing. Your church is going to be hosting that documentary showing in Dallas. Give us the name of the church, and the documentary is called Erasing Family.
Yes, I can't wait to see it.
Yes. So for people who are going to be looking at that, where exactly is your church located?
Okay, so my church is in Garland on Plano Road, and it's called Mundo de Milagro y Fe. And we are going to be doing the premiere there, and I'm excited to be a part of this and to see this movie, and hopefully it'll give us all some wisdom. And for those who don't know, even though it is a Spanish-speaking church, it will be presented in English. It's actually a bilingual church. Okay. You know, the name is in Spanish, but the services are all translated, and we are hosting this. Is going to be an English event. Okay. It's not a Spanish event. Yeah. And but yeah, we are going to be having the premiere there. Well, again, I just want to say thank you. You have a lovely family. Oh, thank you. It was beautiful to meet your children, and to meet you and Robert as well. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you.